So another 80-year-old has been mauled to death by a pit bull. And of course, every time somebody is killed by a pit bull, everyone starts debating online and screaming at each other about whether or not pit bulls are really just nice puppies, and it's really up to the owner to train them to be killers, or whether they are stone cold killers all by themselves. And I've not weighed in on this debate because it just seems so evident and obvious and borderline stupid that we keep having this discussion over and over again. But today, I'm going to weigh in. So everybody, buckle up. Get ready to be super angry in the comments. First and foremost, let's just start with some arbitrary facts. In terms of dog breeds, you are most likely to be bitten by a Jack Russell Terrier. Did you know that? Also on the list of breeds that are most likely to bite you are Chihuahuas. I definitely knew that because I can't stand Chihuahuas. I'm sorry if you're a Chihuahua owner. Obviously, they are not very nice dogs. They yap all the time and they bite a lot, but nobody cares about Jack Russell Terriers or Chihuahuas biting because at the end of the day, you can punt them. You could punt them for a couple of points if you needed to, right? Not the same circumstance when it comes to pit bulls. So let's go over some statistics. Again, these are the facts. Don't be mad at me for being the messenger. This is dated for the 2020 year. Pit bulls are indeed, of course, the most fatal dogs. 65% of all deaths by dogs are committed by pit bulls. 65%. That is 284 deaths per year. In second place, and this is a long away second place, are Rottweilers. They account for 10% of all deaths and 45 deaths per year. And as another fact, in 2021, of the 51 Americans that were killed by dogs, 37 of them were killed by one or more pit bulls. Okay, now let's get into the history of pit bulls as a breed. In case you don't know this, the ancestors of pit bulls can be traced back over 2,000 years to the United Kingdom. Originally, the pit bull was bred from the Old English Bulldog, which has a look that is not too entirely dissimilar from the American Bulldog that we see today. If you didn't already know, pit bulls are the result of crossbreeding bulldogs with various terrier breeds. The dogs were used for bull baiting. It was a sport in which a couple of bulldogs would annoy and attack a bull until the animal gave up and collapsed. But that's not it. They were also bred to bite and hold bears and other large animals around the face and the head. Okay, so that is obviously very relevant. An animal that is capable of biting and attacking a bear. This sport, along with other baiting sports, was outlawed back in 1835. Then a new sport came of interest, and this was called ratting. Dogs were pitted against rats in competition as to whose dog could kill the most rats, and that is where the name pit bull derives from. The fact that rats were put into the pit in a bid to stop them from escaping. With time, that sport then turned into just dogfighting because it was easier to hide from the authorities. And obviously, dogfighting, even though it is illegal, does still go on today, even in the United States of America. So yes, it is correct to say that these dogs were bred to fight. They were bred to attack, and they were bred to kill over many, many years. And the question of whether or not breeding works, of course it does. The question of whether or not Darwinism is real, of course it is. You can breed for height. You can breed for intelligence. You can breed for stupid if you really want to, right? Obviously, this can take place. You can breed for athleticism. We see examples of this all the time. But it's important to note that just because you are bred in one way or the other does not mean that you are locked into that permanent state, right? So right now, the most mathematically capable people in the world are Koreans. It doesn't mean that Koreans are forever going to be the most mathematically capable people in the world. We could start breeding Americans to be better at math. We could start doing what they do over in Korea, or we could not. And we can remain probably the dumbest mathematical country in the world. So first and foremost, regarding the big question of whether or not we should ban pit bulls, it's important to note because there's a lot of false arguments that are taking place. When people are talking about banning pit bulls, they're not talking about the authorities knocking on your door and taking your pit bull. Nobody's going to come for your pit bulls. If you're listening to this and you go, I have a pit bull, no one's trying to come take your pit bull. Your pit bull is safe. What they're talking about is stopping breeding, right? They no longer want pit bulls to be bred. They kind of just want them to just stop existing long term, but no one's going to come take them. And one thing that people who are very pro pit bull, and this is I would say, a pretty wild bunch, They are very passionate about their claims that pit bulls are kind animals. They always say it's just like the gun debate, right? It's just like it's up to the owner, and the owner makes the pit bull a maniac. Pit bull is not itself a maniac. It's all about the owner. It's just like the guns. And I hate when I hear people say this, when people say it's the owner, not the pit bull, because I feel that those people fail at forming basic analogies, because obviously a gun cannot aim and fire and kill someone by itself. A pit bull can, in fact, aim and attack and kill someone all by itself, whether its owner is there or its owner is not. So please just stop making that ridiculous argument, because it's stupid, okay? No matter how much I train a gun to kill, it cannot fire without me, okay? So where do I stand on all of this? Well, I'll tell you personally, I do not like being around pit bulls. My entire life, I have never felt comfortable around pit bulls, ever. Ever in the history, I have friends that have pit bulls. If they kill me, no. But pit bulls are an aggressive dog, right? And I get that my friends who have pit bulls, they love their pit bulls and they're sweet babies. But it's your sweet baby, okay? If the pit bull feels threatened by me, I'm very aware that a pit bull will kill me. And I cannot, for that reason, comprehend the people that think it's acceptable to have pit bulls around young children. How far are you willing to go to be contrarian? I don't understand why you would say, to prove a point, right, that pit bulls are really gentle and wonderful, I'm going to have them around my small children. Now, I'll give you an example of this. When I walk my son around the block, I am so aware. My biggest fear as a mother, I'm not even kidding, is when I walk my son, is that a dog is going to get loose and is going to run up and is going to attack him while I'm pushing him. I think about this when I walk. I process. I know in my walk that I do every day what kind of dog lives on every piece of property. I'm like, and they're all different. They're all different. Golden doodle, they're kind of sweet and a little dorky. I'm like, if this guy gets loose, I'm probably okay, right? You see the little yapper ones. I'm like, if this guy gets loose, I'm going to kick him right in the jaw and he's going to go flying, right? I think about what I am going to do if these dogs get loose. And there's just one pit bull on my walk, and he barks like a psychopath. Wait, it's an invisible fence. I don't even like invisible fences, okay? I like the real ones. If you're gonna get a fence, get a real one that I can actually see. And he's just barking and barking, and he's very aggressive when he barks. I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, if this invisible fence was not here, I would kill you, Candace. And I'm thinking, okay, great, because just so you know, I'm going to try to kill you as well. My thought process is, how quickly can I shoot your pit bull in the chest? Because if it's a pit bull and it comes towards me and my child, I don't care if that's your baby, it's gonna get shot. That's just the truth. I'm just telling you where I stand on that. People like, oh, you don't know, it could be a gentle, not running toward my children. We're not going to find out. And I hope that you respect that. If you're a pit bull owner, please make sure that your pit bull stays on his property, because I'm not the kind of parent that is going to try to figure out whether or not you have bred your pit bull to be a really kind creature. I don't want it running near my children at all. As a rule, all dogs, by the way, keep your dogs on your properties. I see dogs getting loose all the time, and I think this is so remarkably irresponsible. And of course, that this is an animal, and this animal usually has capability, unless it's really small, to kill a human. Now, do I believe the people who are pit bull owners that say that I raised my pit bull since it was born? Do I believe that they are telling the truth when they say that their pit bull would never attack them? Yes, I do believe that your pit bull will not attack you. But I do also know that a pit bull is an animal. And I believe that if a pit bull perceives a threat, whether that threat is real or imagined, they will be overtaken by their animal instinct. And a pit bull's animal instinct tells them to obliterate, to annihilate the threat until the very end. Now, I said something very important there. I said whether that threat is real or imagined. Because on the topic of children, a pit bull can very much be imagining a threat. All animals can be imagining a threat. I think about when I had a cat, and I loved my cat. I had my cat before I had my child. My son, when he was 4 months old, was just playing with her and went to grab her face because he loved her. And my cat swatted at my son. Why did she do that? Well, because she had obviously perceived an imagined threat. It wasn't because I was raising her to be a killer cat. It's because she is a cat. She is an animal. And the animal just got swapped in the face. And yes, it's by a little 4-month-old baby, but she doesn't comprehend that. Similarly, I went to a friend's house who has 2 pit bulls. She also has a 5-month-old child, about 5 or 6-month-old child, and she has an almost 2-year-old. And I went to her house. She has 2 pit bulls. And the entire time that I was holding her baby, the pit bull was sitting in front of me growling, just growling. Like actually, I felt that it was going to bite my face off. And she kept telling the pit bull, calm, calm. It's okay. It's okay. And she said, I'm sorry. The pit bull thinks that it's her baby. Okay, I get that. I guess I feel mildly comfortable enough because you're sitting here, right? But I was very conscious of how I was holding the baby, make sure I didn't move too quickly because I didn't want the pit bull to wrongly perceive that I was threatening the child. Instantly in my head, I said, my son is not allowed to be here. Imagine what this pit bull would do, right? What this pit bull would do if my toddler son was playing with her toddler son and maybe hit him, as toddlers tend to do. They hit each other, right? They're still learning how to be human beings. Would the pit bull drag and annihilate my toddler kid to protect what it perceives to be its toddler kid? Maybe, maybe not. I can tell you that my child won't be there to find out. And this is why I think it is always such cowardice when people blame the owners, because the dogs that I have been made to feel uncomfortable around have wonderful owners, right? They're not thugs, they're not criminals, they're not raising the dog to bite others. They're not training the pit bulls to harm people. They're just severely underestimating what their pit bull may or may not perceive to be a threat and how their pit bull is going to rise to meet that threat. That certainly seems to have been the case when it came to Kirsty and Colby Bernard. You remember this story? Back in October of last year. More than 8 years ago, they purchased 2 pit bulls, Cheech and Mia. 6 years later, they had their first child, a little girl named Lily Jane. Then 2 years after that, they had a second child, a boy named Hollis Dean. It's probably fair to assume that they loved and they trusted their pit bulls. They had them for 8 years. And they could have never predicted that just a few short months later, Cheech and Mia were going to kill both of their children. For 10 minutes, the pit bulls, who they had loved and raised for 8 years, mauled their 2-year-old and their 5-month-old to death. Now you're probably thinking, well, what happened to cause the pit bulls to react that way? It's not clear. It hasn't yet been reported. So I'll ask you the question, what could a 2-year-old possibly do to make a pit bull perceive a threat that was so real that it had to kill a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old? Probably just acted like a 2-year-old. Maybe it hit the pit bull in the face. Maybe it pulled the pit bull when it was having a bad day by the tail. Maybe it went near the pit bull's food and the pit bull felt threatened. It's a devastating story. I didn't report on it. I didn't even speak about it back when it happened last October when people were heavily debating pit bulls because I felt so bad for the parents. I can't even imagine. They were probably the kind of parents that weighed in during pit bull events and pit bull debates and said, pit bulls are not like that. We have 2 sweet girls that we've had for 8 years. We have 2 children. Nothing's ever go wrong. Yeah, nothing ever goes wrong until it does. That is the point. Nothing ever goes wrong until it does. So I find this debate to be very bizarre. I find it weird that you have humans that are trying to convince you that animals are not animals. I find it weird, as if we don't all know that there are certain breeds that are friendlier than others. We know this. We know that golden retrievers are friendlier and more family friendly than a Chihuahua. We know this. This is just common sense. So when did it become normal for people to pretend that you could breed an animal out of an animal? That's not possible. So please, like I said, stop saying it. My stance is that I don't want your pit bull. I don't want the cops and the authorities to come take your pit bull, but I certainly don't want your pit bull around me and my children. And that's all I have to say about that.